We still get the sound.
Okay. All right, everybody. Shalom. It's weird, huh?
So it's good very lovely sound.
Mm. Okay. Okay, so this
recording it on your thing anyway.
Yeah. Vihi Noam Adonai Eloheinu Avinu. So, shalom, shalom. In Inner Space, the book that we're learning. So, the book is divided into two parts. The first part is 13 chapters. And we're very much concentrating in the last few classes on the last 3 chapters. In fact, we went to the last chapter called Tzimtzum, and the last 4 chapters. And then so we went to Tzimtzum, and we dealt with some of the ideas around Tzimtzum, that Hashem wanted to make a universe in which He is hidden, and at the same time that He is totally present. Only an infinite one can do that. It's the greatest feat that He can do, was to hide. Where would you hide if you're bigger than the whole universe and all of its galaxies? You hide right next to us, right here in this room, right? And nobody can see you, and nobody can know you're here. It's called in the Torah, Haster Hastir Panai, I will surely hide my face. So the miracle that Hashem does is He creates a world where He's invisible. And then He creates what's called a marechet of olamot, a system of worlds. A very large system of worlds. The process with which He does this is spoken about most succinctly in the Kitvei Ari, in the writings of the Ari. We've spoken about who the Ari was and how important he was, how special he was. He was born in Yerushalayim, in the old city, and at the age of 7 he went down to Mitzrayim, to Egypt with his mother when his father passed away. And he learned there with the greatest rabbis of the generation. And when he was in his 20s, he went to live alone 6 days of the week and only came home on Shabbat to his wife. And in that hut that he lived, he received what's called Gilui Eliyahu, the revelation of Elijah. Something that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had received in his day. Eliyahu Navi is a teacher. He's called the Mivaser, the one who heralds the redemption, but he's also the teacher of the inner secrets. His neshama goes up and comes down, goes up and comes down. It could be that it's not an individual, it's just called that. But that's traditionally what it's called, is Gilui Eliyahu, the revelation of Elijah. So the Ari received this, and at the age of around 30, in his 33 or something, he received a message that he has to go to Eretz Israel, and he's going to find a young man there named Chaim Vital, and he's going to teach him. In the meantime, he was taught many things that were about the whole system of universes that Hashem had made, and why the physical world is as it is, and how the Torah works, and how when the children of Israel went into Mitzrayim in the Torah and Sefer Shemot, it's the same thing as saying that the souls from Shemaim came down into this world, which is like a Mitzrayim. And that here they lose their identity and they don't know who they are. And the whole process of Moshe bringing the children of Israel out of Mitzrayim is the process of redeeming the neshama, redeeming the souls. And then that becomes the ta'alich, the process towards which all history moves, which is the revelation of Hashem in the world, which we call the Messianic age, the Yemot HaMashiach. So he understood the Torah in a very deep way. He got it from his teachers. He got it from learning the Zohar. Took the Zohar very seriously. He used to meditate on the Zohar. He used to meditate for hours on his own. So the system that we've received through the Ari is a very profound system, such that at one point, let's just pass this out. It's not the greatest piece of art, but it's useful. So you see here the system of 10 sfirot. At the top you see Keter, and right next to the word Keter you see Ari. Interesting. And right next to the word Keter on the left you see Adam Kadmon. It's not well written, but for those who are familiar with the words, it's not so hard to identify. Thank you. And underneath Keter you see Yechida in English and in Hebrew. All that has a line underneath of it. And then on the right and on the left, you see Chochmah and Bina. Above the word Chochmah, you see Rashash, which is the initials of Rav Sar Shalom Sharabi. Sar Shalom Sharabi. Or sometimes just called Shalom Sharabi, from Sharab, which is near Eden, which is near Yemen. Basically, it is all just Yemen, Teman. And he is officially known to be a reincarnation of the Ari. The Ari died in 1572, but the Rashash was born in around 1707. So it's a difference of a few hundred years. At the same time, in 1702, approximately, was the Ramchal was born. It's on the left over Bina. On the left side of the page, in the middle of the page, you see Gra, Gra. And next to him, you see in that whole section, there are 3 sfirot, Chesed, Gvur, Teferet. I'll explain in a minute. But what we're doing here was they're showing that the spherotic system can be used to understand a lot of important things. So here, the Ari is being presented as the Keter of 4 very important schools of thought that come from the Ari. In Breshit, this talks about the river that comes out of Eden that breaks into 4 rivers. Nar Yotze mi Eden, as it said there, Omitpared le'abarashim, and it separates into 4 head streams, 4 main rivers. So the 4 main rivers that come out of the Ari, and we apply it to here. There are 4 rivers that came out of the Ari. The first one on the right, as we said, his name is Rav Sar Shalom Sharabi. The one on the left is Ramchal. The Gaon of Vilna called the Gra. He was born in 1720. And on the bottom, on the left side, Baal Shem Tov. He's born in 1698. So they all are born around the same time, as opposed to the Ari, who's from another generation completely. So what this class is about, I hope it'll be useful to all of you, is an overview of Kabbalah. Specifically where we're holding in the book about the Tzimtzum and Adam Kadmon and the Olamot, the worlds of Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya. It seems like a huge subject to touch, but the way I'm going to do it is going to hopefully be an overview for you that you'll get a sense of a sense of how it's not so far away from all of us. It's part of our lives. Just
So why would you? Is there a reason they were all born around the same time?
yeah. I'm going to show you now. I call it the cosmic clock. So once I made a few diagrams based on the Sefer Yetzirah. The Sefer Yetzirah speaks about Olam, Shana, Nefesh. World, year, which is time, Nefesh, which is person, which is soul, consciousness. So it's almost like you can see that Olam is where are we? Shana is when are we? Time. And Nefesh is who are we? So Hashem helped me write a book about how all that works. And bringing the teachings of the Ari about these three coordinates. And one example is the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur in the Kodesh Kodashim. Kodesh Kodashim is where? Yom Kippur is when? Kohen Gadol is who? So if you're lighting candles on Friday night, it's you, it's entering Shabbat, and you're in Yerushalayim. And you think of it that way as three coordinates coming together. If you're at the Kotel, at the moment that the sun rises, right, and you're praying the Amidah, which is the highest point of the Amidah, the highest point of the prayers, and it's the highest point in the planet, and it's you. That's what's right. That's the problem. It's just us, but it's not a problem, believe. So it's very good. It's just us, right? But when you connect time and space, it's also called mazal, which is makom, which is place. Zayin is zman. Makom, zman, time, place and time. And lashon, what do I say? Where am I now? And what's the moment? How do I catch the moment in the place that I am at the moment that I am with lashon, with speech, with holy speech? So we always are thinking in terms of these three coordinates. So one of the coordinates is time, shana. And this is based on the Gra, the Gaon of Vilna, very much so. I'll tell you why. But in the Elef Shishi, which is the year 5000, when you're 5 years old, you're beginning your sixth year, right? So in the year 5000, the beginning of the sixth millennium, so it corresponds to 1240. This is when the Ramban lived. This is when the teachers of the Ramban were still alive. It was a major transmission of Kabbalah. The Ramban's teachers were Ra'avad, Rabbi Abram ben David, whose son was Rabbi Yitzhak Sagi Nahor, or Isaac the Blind, who taught Rabbi Ezra and Rabbi Azriel. And Rabbi Azriel taught Ramban, and Ramban taught a few, Rashba and Ritba, and a few, very important, but some of them it's a major transmission of Kabbalah, and it's at this time. This is when the Ari lived. Even though he was born in 1535, and this is talking about 1490, it's a cluster effect. The Ari, Rav Moshe Cordovero, Rav Yosef Karo, a whole bunch of rabbis, and all of them left Spain and Portugal or wherever they were, Turkey. They all left in the 1490s because of the Inquisition, and they went up into Europe, into Holland, and then they all went into Italy. They went into Turkey. There were three major cities in Turkey where were learning Torah, and then they decided to come down into Tzfat. And they met in Tzfat. There were some in Tiberia, some in Yerushalayim, but mostly in Tzfat at this time. And this was a very important time for those souls. So there were very major moments in history when the Ari, around here, 1270 was when the Zohar is revealed. 1290 is when the Zohar is published for the first time. Here you have the Ari. The Zohar talks about how the specialness, the importance of Chatzot Laila, of midnight. Here you have the Ari in Tzfat, doing midnight, every night, waking up just before midnight and learning in the deepest secrets. When the sky opens up and you don't see colors, and you don't see the earth. So it's the time to fly in the upper spheres. That's what they did here. Then you come to the time when the Baal Shem Tov and the Gra and the Ramchal and the Chida and the Rashash and the Or HaChaim, there's another cluster here. And finally you come to here, to us. 750 years into the 6th millennium, you come to 1990. Problem is us, right? Why is it just us? Why don't we have any of these anymore? So what's the answer? We are them, broken up into thousands of pieces. We are little sparks of these great souls. And now as we come up towards here, certain things have to happen. Certain very powerful things have to happen. Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. Okay, so these masters, the Rashash, the Ramchal, the Gra, and the Baal Shem Tov represent 4 rivers. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And specifically, they're associated with Chochmah, Bina, is the Rashash and the Ramchal. The Rashash is the quantum physics of the Ari. He describes the Olamot. He describes the whole system of Olamot. It goes very high. It's a very huge system. Here's one diagram of the Rashash's Torah. It's from the Ari, but the Rashash is said to be a reincarnation of the Ari. So the Rashash develops it. Here, this is a diagram from Rav Moshe Schatz of the Rashash, of the Ari system through the Rashash, where the middle represents the highest and most subtle level of godliness coming down into the world, and then the levels that come down like this are what's called malbush. They're garments. So this is a garment. These here is a garment. A whole system of garments over this. This is another garment over. This is another garment. Another. So it's a system of that we're down here and we only see from the outside, and we have to refine ourselves to be able to access these deeper levels that are here. They're up here, they're surrounding us, but they're also in the essence of our lives. They're right here. The Ein Sof is all around us, and the Ein Sof is in the Pnimiyut, is the inner level of reality. So for us to access the inner level of reality, we have a prayer system, where we go up the steps to that place where we're refining our psyche, our perception of ourself and of the world, so we begin to intuit that there's something deeper than the physical reality, that there's something behind the physical reality, right? That what we saw at Sinai we saw up, the rabbi said, we saw the 7 firmaments opened, and we saw the Kisei HaKavod. We saw, that's the midrashic way of saying that we saw something very deep behind the worlds. And then it closed up again, right? But we saw, for that one moment, we saw. And our souls left us. It says in Song of Songs, Yatsa nafshi b'davro, my soul left when he spoke. So the system that Hashem made, there are different ways to explain it, and each one helps the other. The Rashash explains it in terms of the complexities of a complex system of many levels. The Ramchal explains it more in terms of history, of how history works. How does Hashem run history? He runs it towards a goal. He gives us free will, but he interacts with us according to our free will. But on the other hand, he has a plan, a larger plan. So the Ramchal describes in all of his writings, they all do everything, but I'm talking about emphases. That the Ramchal describes how Hashem runs the world, especially what the place of evil is, why free will is so important to allow that human beings can do whatever they want. And it seems it is that they can get away with anything they want. That's what it has to seem like. It has to be a veil that allows people to think that they can do whatever they want. They can look religious, or they can look evil. They can look any way they want. They can play any game they want, and they seem to be able to get away with it. And it's really a sad thing, because when a person wakes up and realizes they have a chance to do tshuva, but if it goes so far, too far, entire nations can rule the world, right? That's part of the meta history of the planet Earth, is to look at history from a prophetic point of view, and that everything that's going on down here is part of a plan. That there's free will, but there's somebody who knows everything that's going on down here, and he interferes in subtle ways. And so this system of olamot here, the system of malbushim, of garments, now is seen in terms of what's called hanhagot, of modes of providence, modes of divine providence. One is called chokhmah, and one is called bina. What is the meaning of these two? What is chokhmah? What is bina in terms of God? And then there's another set of names of the same thing, Abba and Ima. Chokhmah is called Abba. Is he really our father? Or is it really a mode of providence that's called father? And Bina is a mode of providence called Ima. And it's identified with the Yud of Hashem's name here in Chokhmah, and the Hey of Hashem's name here in Bina. And up here is the Ari, which is the Kutzoshiel, the apex of the Yud, which contains everything in the unity before it breaks down. So, but on the particular line that I'm moving on is now, Ari is the whole system that was given over, but we weren't worthy to receive it in its completion, and it broke down into different schools. And now in our generation, we're the broken generation, we're the sparks of all these souls. It's now time to see them all as one great unified system. And how what each one of them says about the system of the Ari, which is basically, he's Keter, but he's also the Malchut. He's the lowest aspect of that which came before him. So it's a beautiful tree that continues on and up, back to Adam Arishon. So what we're trying to do here is to receive this system, to download this system, to appreciate what they gave us, so that we can know where we can determine where we are in time and in space and who we are. Because without that knowledge, we don't know what to do. We've been brought back to the land of Israel, and it was a great day, and the whole world rejoiced, at least for a short while, except the Arabs. And then the whole world started moving against us, and everything we did was wrong. We can't do anything right. So it's like the Ramchal and the Gaon of Vilna, particularly, are meta-historians. They're telling us why what's going on now is happening, and why it's going to get more and more intense as we move towards what? The 7th millennium. Right? Because things have to happen, and things will happen. How they happen, in what intensity they happen, and how sweet it is or how bitter it is, depends on us to a great extent. But there's a lot to say about it, but that's the statement, is that a lot of it depends on us. And what do I mean by us? It's what we do, it's what we say, and what we think. Those are the three important things about a human being: what we think, what we say, and what we do. It's our consciousness that mostly will determine. Because what we're moving towards, you have verses in Yeshayahu, you have verses in Yirmiyahu, you have verses in all the prophets. In Yeshayahu it says, Umale'ah ha'aretz dea et Adonai k'mayim liyam mechasim. Anybody remember this verse? Can you say it by heart? Umale'ah ha'aretz dea et Adonai k'mayim liyam mechasim. Meaning, anyone want to translate for me? Umale'ah ha'aretz dea, and the world will be filled with dea,
wisdom,
et Hashem, of consciousness of God, K'mayim liyam nechasim, like the water fills the seabed, covers the seabed. So it's a very beautiful idea. One of my rabbis, his grandfather said, but there are mountains in the sea. There are depths of the sea, and then there's a whole terrain in the sea. So even though it's going to be the sea is going to be one level, and there'll be an outflow of divine consciousness on all mankind. But those who worked beforehand will be the mountains. In other words, there's not, everybody's not going to be the same. It depends on what you do now. So those of us who are trying to awaken now, and it's not easy, but those of us who are trying to awaken now, so we're refining ourselves, we're preparing ourselves for this, which Yoel said, Va'eshpoch et ruchi al kol basar. It's Yoel chapter 3 verse 1. Hashem says, Va'eshpoch et ruchi al kol basar. What does that mean? What is l'shpoch?
I'll pour.
I will pour out.
I have my spirit.
I'll pour out my spirit on all flesh. And your young men and your young women will prophesy, and they'll see dreams, right? They'll see visions. And then in Yirmiyahu it says, I think it's Perek Lamed Bet 32, it says that Lo Yomar Adam L'Chavero Ish La'achiv. No man will say to his friend or to his brother, Da et Hashem, know God, Ki Kulam Yid'u Oti, Mi Kitanam Ad Gedolam, all will know me, from the small ones to the great ones, not from the great ones to the small ones. Everything has meaning of even the order that things are said. From the small to the great. So those prophecies are what kept the Torah of these men, it gave them a direction to go. They said history is moving towards something. The Purim story, the Pesach story, Shavuot, Yam Suf, all these things are realities, right? That are levels of consciousness. And that's what they opened up. So specifically, the Ramchal explained history, and the Gra told us how to move history, how to accelerate history, how to do certain things down here. They all did this, but again, emphasis, as the Gra said, do such and such, and you will be part of the two Mashiachs, the Mashiach ben Yosef and the Mashiach ben David. You'll be part of their work, because the Gra said that each of these men operates on three levels: the spiritual level, the spiritual principle called Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David; the person or the couple, the man and the wife, called Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David; and then there's all those who participate and who want to be part in their lives of these two incredible processes. To the extent that the Ramchal and the Gra both, they took tens of psukim in the Tanakh, and they said the first part of this pasuk is Mashiach ben Yosef, the second part of the pasuk is Mashiach ben David, because these are just names, but the real thing is that there are two ways that Hashem runs the universe, runs the world, runs history. So Kumi Ori Kiba Orech, rise up and shine, for your light has come. Uchavod Adonai Alai Chira'eh, and the glory of Hashem will be seen upon you. Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef first, Mashiach ben David second. Constantly, Smolot tahat roshi, v'yiminot tahat bekeni. His left hand is under my head, and his right hand embraces me. And they just did this with tens of verses until you got the idea that this is a principle in how to understand the Tanakh, to break open the Tanakh as a book of instructions. And the last one is the Baal Shem Tov. His emphasis was, how do you see it inside yourself? How do you see it in your own life? How do you see Hashem's Hashem's reality in your own life. And then you open your eyes and see, oh, interesting, it must be history also. And you open your eyes and see, it must be worlds beyond our worlds. And again, you come back, who am I? How do I fit into this? That's why it's so, the Baal Shem Tov is so important to us. That's why it rings a bell when you hear his name. Right? The others are less known. They're less personal to us. Right? But they're just as important, obviously. When you need them, they're there for you.
Rabbi Nachman Breslov is from the Baal Shem Tov, right?
So within the Baal Shem Tov is Chabad and Rabbi Nachman and Rabbi Tzadok Cohen and the Karmarna and the Zidichover and the Lubliner and all these amazing, right? A whole system, a whole holographic whole that everything is there within the detail. And within the Gra system also, that those who came from the school of the Gra, a holographic whole of the entire system, but within the framework of the Gra's Torah. The same thing with the Ramchal, same thing with the Rashash. So let's break here for a second, and I'll tell you where we're going. But does anybody have any major questions or want clarifications? Can I help in any way? Yes.
In this thing, a process of consciousness. So it seems that in the world right now, there's like two processes going on. There's this, it seems that God is providing some sort of ladder up, but then the ladder down seems extremely accessible and like it's just going in, from what I see, going in two very opposite directions. Yeah.
Somebody told me there's a program in the States called the Hall of Shame. There's a program, it's a documentary on the worst things that certain individuals have done, going through the whole story of who this person is, what they did. It's a shame. We live in a generation where the worst is being done, the most hype, but there's also good things. Even within Judaism, we see things that, if you look at it from the outside, who wants to be part of this? Look at this world that we've come into, those of us who are Baal Teshuvas. So if your motivation is an external one, that I like those people, or I thought I liked those people, and it seemed to me that it was a good thing, and that yeshiva was good, and that Torah that I heard was good, but then I heard that the Torah teacher that was so nice is doing things that are not right. Like, what do? Do I completely throw the whole thing out? Or do I have that the process is supposed to connect me to the essence, and to be able to live my life in terms of that essence truth? And then whatever goes on about me, may be my job to try and maybe fix it. But do I leave this because of the difficulties we're experiencing? We had difficulties in Beit Sheni, we had difficulties in Beit Rishon, we had difficulties all the time. The children of Yaakov sold Yosef. So something is here that I gotta stay here and do what I can. And to the best of my ability, I have to know what's wrong, and I have to try and make it right, at least in my own life. I personally will not go away from it, even though I'm very disappointed in my people. I'm disappointed in the Israeli government. I'm disappointed in every certain thing, every sphere of influence we can see. Then when I start to count my blessings and I see how much good there is and how many good things that there are, it does actually weigh. You can get a big list here. And then you can say, you know what? It's very interesting. When you're in this mode where everything is bad, it's just like the whole world is dark and there's no reason to go on. But then you go over here and there's like an incredible world that opens up to you of awesome goodness. The Creator is real. So you have to get into this in order to balance this off. And we believe that this is going to get stronger towards the end. And we're asking Hashem and begging him, please make this stronger also, because give us a balance. Right? It's a whole thing I have with how to explain it. But okay, so that was the question was, yes, it seems to be that the ladder going up is being made available, but the ladder going down is being made available also, and people are going down.
Is the ladder going up being made available?
Yes, and it's going to become more and more available, even in the next coming months. more and more openings for real deep connection with Hashem, and also the ability to talk about this and to spread it and to know that it's a real thing of Male'ah ha'aretz de'eh et Hashem k'mayim liyam echazim. Hashem is shofech rucho. And if you get into these inside levels, then all of my books, for instance, about the Baal Shem Tov's parable of the king who made a palace with many walls around about, and then invited all of his subjects to come. And when they got there, it was all locked. And there was no way, and they all looked around, and some of them figured, well, we'll go all around and see how to get in. And one of them climbed over a wall, and then he encountered alligators and stuff. But he said, I'm going to go on. And he made it over the next wall and over the next wall, and then through the maze and by the soldiers and by the lions, until there were ministers of the king strewing kesef and zahav, silver and gold, and you can take it and you can leave. But that part of each one of us that knows that's not why I came to see the king. So say, no, I'm going to go inside. And then inside the palace are rooms with incredible wisdom, and you could stay there for 100 years. You say, no, I'm going to tear myself away. I'm going to go in and try and find the king. And when I finally do, and the king is there sitting in the middle, and he says, I'm so glad to see you. And you bow down and you say, it was so hard to get here. And he says, tell me about it. And he's sitting next to the queen also. There's the archetype of Abba and Ima, right? Of Chochmah and Bina. Something deep inside of us that allows us to see Hashem in forms. The forms are not the important thing, but they're not who Hashem is, but they give us a way to communicate with Hashem and receive communication from him. So this conversation that the Baal Shem Tov describes is that we tell Hashem how hard it was to see him. And he says, come here. And we stand by Hashem in the sense of his kingship, his malchut, the king and the queen. And he says, turn around and see the palace from here. And there's no palace. Those are just fields and trees and gardens and angels. And you look at the kings, what's going on here? He says, the answer is, I had to make it like that, but I was with you every step of the way. Now I want you to leave here and go out to the other rooms in the palace and go to the room where there's a lot of wisdom and study now, because now you know why to study, and then go out into the world and remember this and take this with you. So all the walls, all the barriers, all the things that go wrong. And the Zohar, it even says that we meet animals that are very frightening, but if we interact with them properly, they accompany us to the king. It's this beautiful scene in the Zohar. We have chipmunks and squirrels and bears and all these alligators, and they're supposed to be ugly and scary, but if you interact with them properly, if you're midot or mitukanot, if you fix yourself, then they become your friends. It's awesome. So there's all these beautiful Torahs about this. So this Torah is opening up that that level of experience of being inside is there, and we can get it. And that's what the prayer system is about. The Ari revealed how the prayer system worked, that we get into the deepest level of the Amidah and of Tachanun and of Hallel and of Kriyat Torah, that we receive something. Right? Most people are going into davening and they're not knowing what they're getting and not knowing how to get it. So that's one thing I wanted to share. And there's maybe more questions, and I'm open to them if you want. And I want you to turn the page over, and there's two very beautiful sources about something that we spoke of, that we mentioned 2 weeks ago, that I want to tell you about. But again, at any point, please, don't be afraid to ask.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you're speaking about the balancing of the powers of good and evil, for lack of a better word. And the question is, by focusing on you said how, like, if one were to just focus on the negative, it's very easy to just get, like, washed away in that and not see anything but that. Yet, but my question is this: if one were to choose to consciously focus on the positive, do they generate more positive actions in the world? Like, do they actually generate more positivity in the world by focusing? Like, do they manifest it by focusing on that? And does one manifest more evil in the world by focusing on the evil, and like focusing on pain? Do they manifest more pain in this existence? Or is it very like, oh, external, like, God, I don't believe this because I'm saying like sarcasm, but like God sends us stuff and like this is all evil and this is all good and this is like totally nothing to do with us. Like, do you agree that like what our focus is like generates?
So the whole system of mitzvot, of Torah, of tefillah is a system of bringing in higher energy. You're bringing in godliness into the world. You're bringing in more until the world becomes so filled with godliness that it can't stay the same. It can't hide God anymore. In the meantime, as I said, there's a balance of free will. So sometimes what we bring in, we don't have control we don't have control over the end product of what we do. Yeah. But if you're doing something and you're doing it with kavana, with intention, with concentration, with focus, and then, for instance, let's say I used to learn at night, every Thursday night with my friends. It was like really special. We learned Zohar on Thursday nights. And one Friday morning, I was in Geula, and I had to do a few things for my wife and the kids. And I was waiting, and it was getting already sunny. It was already 10 o'clock. I'd been up all night. Okay, I can handle somewhat, but it was getting to be a little bit hot, and I was sweating. And I was feeling the tiredness and getting into a downer. So the goodness of the night couldn't stop me getting into negativity, because the tiredness just was overcoming and I was in a really difficult place. I literally remember the heat was just something I was like not normal, and my body heating up. So it's a long time ago, and it's just a faraway example, but there was no way to stop the negative experience. It's what I was drawing on from the nighttime to be able to sweeten the experience right there when it was happening. There was no way to make it less hot. There's no way to make it less fumes in the air. There was no way to make the physical world different at that moment. It was me who had to handle it. So I don't have the control over the end product of the inner work that I do. But I know that the inner work that I do is important when a negative thing comes up in the world and says, here, what you did is nothing. Here, we're showing you. And I say, no, you're wrong. You're just there because whatever. You can't minimize it, what we're doing. You might try and make it like that. Anyway, it's the psychology of this type of stuff, a little bit too much for right now, but the negativity is the kind of a thing where it wants to grab onto somebody who is making headway. On the contrary, the Baal Shem Tov says, you're getting closer and closer, and all of a sudden you have thoughts, it's not working, I can't daven today. And he says it's a mashal of a king who goes into battle in disguise. And you can't, and those who know the king, they know him by his movements. But those who don't know the king, how are you going to know where the king is? It's by the one who has a lot of guards around him. The closer you get to the king, the more guards there are. The more they're trying to check your passport and check this and check your license and who are you and where you're coming from and why you're coming here. You say, wait a second, I don't want to go anywhere near this place. This is a crazy place. No, this means that I am closer. It's the Baal Shem Tov, it took the Baal Shem Tov to give such a beautiful parable, because you see that the fact that a person can think in his mind, it's not happening today, I feel totally away from everything, is a sign that he should say to himself, maybe this is actually the time I should actually try a little bit harder, because the contra force is trying to convince me that it's not happening. The very fact that there's a contra force, that there's thoughts coming to me that are seemingly negative, is my sign that this is actually closer than I've ever been. So it's a difficult Torah to give over. Please forgive me. That's my answers for the moment. These two Torahs on the back of this page, or in the front, or whatever you want, it's two-sided. It's called Nida 24b and Chagiga 13a. So we mentioned that the system of worlds is very big. And Hashem is outside the system and inside the system. And here's one diagram, one puzzle, that the little world that we live in is a little point within a much larger. Symbolically, the way that they say it, the Ari himself says it, that this world, the world above, is always called infinite relative to the world below. And then even the first two, the smaller two ones, are the third one is infinite compared to them. So it's just a way of talking, is that we don't realize how big the world is that Hashem has made. And it seems perhaps sometimes that what we do has very little effect. But what the Kabbalah does, which means transmitted teaching, is it allows us to be part of something very much bigger than each one of us alone. It allows us to amplify the energy or the power of who we are, because we connect to those with whom we are connected. We connect to the higher souls. So there's two examples here on this page that are far out. Please let me share them with you. Don't be scared off by the Hebrew. Tanya, Abba Shaul Omer, V'i Tema Rabbi Yochanan. Abba Shaul was Tana, and so also was Rabbi Yochanan. So it was one of the other of them said like this: Kover meti maiti, I was a barrier of the dead. Pam achat ratzti achar tzvi, one time I chased after a deer. Nichnasti bekulit shel met, I went and I entered into a grave that opened up, and beratzti acharav shalosh, and I was chasing the deer 3 parsaot. I don't know if parsaot is more. Let's say it's miles, 3 miles. Utzvi lo igati, and I didn't catch the tzvi. Bikulit lo kalta, and the thing which is kuli basically is it's a bone. It's a bone of a leg bone, and it didn't end. I didn't get to the end of the leg bone, and I'm running 3 miles. Kishachazati la'achorai, when I went back, and I told this to my colleagues, Amruli, they said to me, Shel og melech habashan haita. So this is a far out tale, a tall tale. All right, it's using physical terms to describe something spiritual, because it doesn't need to be taken it doesn't need to be taken literally, but it's getting us into a right brain mode where I've encountered the leg bone of Og Melech Bashan. It was longer than 3 miles long. And another one, the next one, Tanya, Abba Shaul Omer, Abba Shaul says, Kover meti maiti, I was a barrier of the dead. Pam achat niftecha me'ara tachtai, once I was digging, and a cave opened up beneath me. And I found myself, va'amadeti b'gilgal enav shel met ad chotmi, and I found myself standing on the pupil of the eye of a dead man, and it was as big as I was up to my nose, my feet to my nose. Kishachazati acharai, when I went back, whatever that means, Amruli, my friend said to me, Ain shel Abshalom haya hava. It was Abshalom's eye. So the symbolic meaning is a little bit clearer here, because Abshalom wanted a lot. He wanted the kingship from his father David. He had a big eye. So we see here that it's put in physical terms in order to give over like the fairy tale level of it, but we know that it means something else. All this is just introductory. It's the most interesting part of it for me. B'shema Tumar, maybe you'll say Abba Shaul Nanasava. Maybe you'll say that Abba Shaul was a midget. I mean, he's staying in an eye, and the eye is this big, and he's up to here. No, he says Abba Shaul Aroch B'doro Hava. No, Abba Shaul was actually quite tall. V'Rabbi Tarfon Nagia L'Ktifo. Rabbi Tarfon got up to his shoulder. Then it goes on. It says Rabbi Tarfon, he was tall in his generation. The Rabbi Akiva, Magia Leketafon, Rabbi Akiva got up to his shoulder. Rabbi Akiva was tall in his generation, and Rabbi Meir came to his shoulder. Rabbi Meir was tall in his generation, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, came up to his shoulder. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rabbi was very tall in his generation, and Rabbi Chia came to his shoulder. Rabbi Chia was tall in his generation, and Rav came to his shoulder. Rav was tall in his generation, and Rav Yehuda, his Talmud, his student, came to his shoulder. Rav Yehuda was tall in his generation. Rabbi Yehuda aroch bedoro hava, va'ada daila de pumbadita magila ketifo. And a man named Ada Daila came to his shoulder. Uparshat china de pumbadita kai leida daila ad chatzi palge. And then another character, all symbolic names, Parshatchina of Pumbedita, he came up to either the Chatze, which is the what's this bone here? The
Shin.
the ankle bone, and also the other is Palge, is he came up to his waist. The Kule Alma Kaile Le Parshachtina, and the whole world stands next to Parshachtina, to his either Palge, his waist, or to his ankle. So it's talking about what's called the Yeridat Dorot. It's talking about that the generations are going down. This one, his head comes up to the shoulder of the one before him, etc., 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 etc. And how small we are compared to those who came before us. And I have fun with it. On Purim once, we were in the old city, we had some friends who had stilts. So he stood on his stilts, and I stood in front of him. My wife stood in front of me, and my kids all stood in front of each other. And we took a picture. And that was, for me, that was this Gemara. And what's maybe important about it is that in the Kabbalah, how shall I? No, not this one. So this idea that, well, we said it before with this diagram, that the one here, sometimes it's said it comes up to the shoulders, sometimes it's up to the belly button. It's all that the lower one dresses up on either to here or to the chest or to the shoulders of the one above it. And the one above it goes all the way down to the floor. All of them, each one goes down to the floor. So the one above it is the tallest. It means not tall, obviously. It means that it spans the entire system, and that now what comes down on it and over it and over it and over it and over it over it are the garments within which the light of Hashem becomes more and more clothed, so that down here it becomes a physical world in which Hashem is undetected in. So again, we go back to the idea that I said, that when we refine our perception in our own self, then we begin to see through the physical to the energy level that's behind and to connect to it. So that's one little thing. In a sense, that's all I wanted from it. That you should know that that the way that they looked at the generations was that the head of the generation before was like totally beyond the generation that came after. So it's interesting. But we can access those higher levels with a little humility and by learning their Torah, by knowing them intimately, that we are sparks of their souls, by connecting, and certainly back to Avram and Sarah, into Moshe, into Adam Rishon, into Abraham. So that's those generations. We are at their, so to speak, not from their shoulders down, not from their waist, maybe their feet, maybe. But even though we have access to the whole system, even from wherever we are. So in Kabbalah, it's very important to know that Kabbalah is transmission from the higher levels all the way down to whoever and wherever you are and whenever you are. And that wherever you are is where you've been placed in your life, where you were born, where you grew up, what you did, and everything you've done. And now, as you learn these teachings, you come into consciousness. It's not an easy process, but you come into consciousness. You begin to know that you are much more than what you thought you were. You're more than what your teachers told you. You're more than what your parents told you. You're more than what your family history is. That you have a neshama. So that's what I get from this. Please give me the chance to share the next thing with you. V'amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Od rakia achad yesh lamal merashei achayot. So it's the middle of a whole discussion about the vision of Ezekiel. That Ezekiel was seeing the chayot of Yetzirah. He was seeing the angels of the world called Yetzirah. And above that is the angels of the world of the Kisei HaKavod, of the throne of glory. And above that is Atzilut itself. So there's Asiya where we are, Yetzirah is where Yecheskel was, Bria is where the throne of glory is, and Atzilut is the Sfirot, the actual embodiment of Ein Sof. And it's called the king on the throne. Bria is called the throne. The king on the throne is the Sfirot. This is basically inner space in a nutshell. And then the chariot is Yetzirah, is the movement of the Ein Sof, not from a single throne, but coming into the lower worlds. And then Asiya is called the Ofanim, is what the Malbim calls the laws of nature, are really angels dressed up as laws of nature. It's the Yetzirah angels dressed up within the Ofanim, which are the wheel angels, which are the cyclical laws of nature, because they're described as wheels because they're cyclical. That's what the Malbim says. We don't know anything. We just have a system, and we try and understand it from what little we can. So above the firmament, he saw the heads of the chayot, as it is said there in the verse, "Udmut al reshei chaya rakia ke'en kerach hanora." And there was a vision above the heads of the chaya. There was a firmament that was like ice, an awesome ice. I'm not even going to what that means. I'm not there right now. I just know it's a verse in Ezekiel. Ad kan yesh lecha reshut ledaber. We're talking about the worlds, and here we're mentioning the Olama Yetzirah, and the Gemara says, till here you have permission to speak. Mikan ve'elach en lecha reshut ledaber. From here and up, you have no more permission to speak. I'll explain how it works in a second. Shekin katub b'sefer ben Sira, for it is written in the book of Ben Sira, the son of Yirmiyahu, a Navi, b'mufla mimchal tidrosh. For that which is beyond you, do not seek to investigate. B'mechusa mimcha, and with that which is covered from you, al tachkor, do not examine. B'ma she'orsheta tidbonen, in what is permitted to you, then you should contemplate. En lacha esek b'nistarot, you should not try and delve too deeply into the hidden matters. Of course, all this is that there's right time and right place for everything, but this was a sign put out at the entrance of the Kabbalah. Right? Don't come in if you're not ready to. It's a haunted house here. You'll get scared, and it's not nice, and you'll freak out. And better stay away if you're not ready. I heard a lot of stories about things like this, and I just don't want to bring it in now. But It is a sign, a no trespassing sign outside of Kabbalah, at least until our generation. But those who do go in and who truly want it, there's a welcoming sign inside. So the outside sign is don't bother coming in. Nobody allowed. Okay. Now it gets interesting. Tanya, Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Ma tshuva hashivato bat kol le'oto rasha Nebuchadnezzar b'sha'a she'amar. What did the divine voice respond to Nebuchadnezzar when he said, E'ele al bamote ab adame le'elyon, I will rise up on the heights of the clouds or the stratospheres. I will be like the supernal. I will be a god, Nebuchadnezzar said. Yatzdabat kol v'amralo, a voice came out and said, Rasha ben Rasha, wicked son of a wicked man, ben benoshel Nimrod, great grandson of Nimrod Harasha, the wicked Nimrod, Shemrid kol haolam kulo alav b'malchuto, who turned the whole world against God during his kingdom. Kama shenotav shel adam, how many years does a man live? Shavim shana, 70 years, as it says in Psalms. Yimei shenotenu bahim shavim shana, that the days of our lives are 70 years. V'im b'gvurot shimunim, and if we're strong, then maybe 80. V'halo mina aretz ad larakia, behold, from the earth down up to the first firmament, mahalach chamesh mot shana. It's a distance of 500 years. Interesting that they measured distance, space, in terms of time. V'ovio shel rakia, and then the actual the thickness of the firmament is another 500 years. Mahalach chamesh mot shana. V'chen ben kol rakia v'rakia. And so it is between every rakia, every firmament, and every firmament is 500, and every thickness between, or whatever, the 500s. L'mala mehem chayot HaKodesh, above all the firmaments of the lower world of Asiya are the chayot HaKodesh. Raglei HaChayot, the feet of the chayot, are more than all of that which is below them. The kartzulei HaChayot, the ankles of the chayot, are more than all that is below them. How would we, just to get the idea, what are we saying, right? That this does anybody hear how to communicate this? Is that this level, maybe this level here, just what covers it here is covering its ankles, and it itself is still above that. I'm not sure how to communicate it. In Rabbi Kaplan's book, one of his books called A World of Love, he says it like this: the distance between heaven and earth is 500 years, the width of each heaven is 500 years. This is true of each of the 7 heavens. The feet of the chayot are as great as them all. The ankles of the chayot are as great as everything below them. The shins of the chayot are equally great. The thighs of the chayot are equally great. The hips, equally great. The body of the chayot, equally great. The neck, equally great. The head, equally great. The horns of the chayot are equally great. The legs of the throne of glory are as great as everything below them. The throne itself is equally great. So Kaplan says, here we see the many levels of the spiritual world, and the Kabbalists speak of many other levels. In a purely spiritual sense, there's no way for these to come together. That's another thing. So it's just this, it's magnitudes of giving us a sense of that, of largeness and our own smallness, and yet that we're connected to all these worlds. So the king wanted to make a world in which he is totally hidden, and yet in which he is totally present, right? And he made these thousands of levels of worlds, each one bigger than the other, and each one therefore on the other end smaller than the other. And the little world that we live in, right, where Hashem is completely hidden, right, is where we can find him in a way that nobody else can find him in all the upper worlds, right? And because we can do that, because we continue to know that he's here despite the hiddenness, something happens to us that's allowing us that when the time comes, the return trip is going to be very, very great. We're going to go up to all the levels, and we're going to be welcomed in all the levels. The whole, in a sense, what we do is we bring all the lower levels up with us. The whole reason for this whole thing was that human beings could exist in a world where God is hidden. So,
Can I add something?
yeah.
It sounds a bit like, you have like a plant and there's like a really thick stem, not like a hollow kind, but actually like when you chop it open, it's like it's filled. And it's like sometimes when you crack open a stem, there's like circles, like I don't know if you call them concentric circles, but like there's a really small one and then like surrounds until like it reaches its ultimate width, which is like the external part of the stem, or like when you chop off a tree, there's like the rings. So it's like almost like the different worlds. It's like almost like the center, the core,
Yes,
is like us, and then all the rings that surround us are the different worlds, and the final ring that surrounds us is like everything and unity and everything. And it seems like it's not part of ours because there's so many, like we're here and that's like here, all the different worlds separating us, but really it's like all part of the same trunk. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you can be either in the middle, you can put us in the middle, or you can put us on the
Right.
outside. We can
Right,
be
that's
at any
what
point
we
along, right.
but it's like it's easy to not see that because we're almost on like opposite ends, but also the same ends at the same time. Meaning,
We're in both places.
right. I'm saying it's easy to have them, like it's easy to not notice that like they're the same and.
Good try, thank you. Because I gave her a difficult one now. What do you do with all this stuff? The next kind of sessions that we're going to have are going to be in part 2 of Inner Space, where he's going to go into how Ezekiel experienced his prophecy. Part 2 of Inner Space. So it makes it much easier for me when I can speak to you consistently and you're here as much as you can be on a weekly basis. And if not, then it does have an effect, but I accept it that every week there's different people. But what we've tried to do is to have some degree of like connectedness, right? But the first book of Inner Space that we spent 1.5 years on, right? And done the Sphirot, and then the Olamot, and done the levels of the soul. And then all behind this, all the rings of all this, like, is Hashem on the inside and Hashem on the outside. And Hashem permeating from the outside and Hashem permeating from the inside. And his presence is the most important thing. What we tried to do today with the Rashash, taking the Torah of the Ari into the physics level, the astrophysics level, the different levels of the worlds and how big they are. Right? The historical figures that the Ramchal and the Gra speak about, that history comes down and down and down and down. And yet we have to know that even though we're at the very bottom, that we're connected all the way to the very top. And the Baal Shem Tov Torah, the inside where the king is, who tells us to look out. And then there's nothing but Hashem, there's nothing but angelic beings, right? And then the world appears again. And we're strengthened every time we daven and we connect to this inner place. We can go back out into the world and see Hashem's hashgacha, his divine providence in our lives. So I bless us all. We can do that more and more and more, especially at this time. Purim is coming. We will speak, we'll do some Purim teachings from the Ari, from the Baal Shem Tov, from the Kamarna. And see, lead up to what really we want to get on Purim. And that every Purim is a whole new level, getting closer and closer to Mashiach. It's the holiday of hiddenness. It teaches us how to see Hashem through the hiddenness. And this is definitely that time. Estimate time. Okay, I'll stop here. Maybe we should sing a song. You have a guitar. See, Jonathan very often doesn't know what to sing. Can we give him a suggestion or just let him do it?
Let's see. The one he always does.
Which one? No, but some of you feel comfortable with. Okay?
Remember my son Kyle?
No, that's you.
Yeah. I have another son who's a drummer. He's much better than his brother. Yeah, same. Still playing? You're playing with Omar, right?
What happened there?
Wow.
פיקודך לעולם לא אשכח פיקודך כי במיתני במיתני כי במיתני Thank you so much. Yeah. One more. One more. One more. Okay, so yeah. So Thank you so much. I just want to, this one thing is what's hard to communicate here is that this little piece up here is really, if it would be in the proper ratio, the mitzvah is, it's up here. But in terms of the picture, so it just this, only the top sticks up. But the top itself is more than the entire, right? So that's what and it came out when the people are standing in front of each other. So the person who's the tallest is going all the way down. The person who's last, but they're all standing on the same floor. So think about it. If you find it, if it hits your fancy that the higher levels are all dressed up in this world, right? And we're seeing only the external, but we can connect. I was like, there's a trap door in each one of them. You can get to the essence. You can connect to the essence, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from. Whether you're lighting Shabbat candles on Friday night, that's your moment to feel Hashem coming down into you. You're the one who's mamash bringing Shabbat down into this world. And you're bringing it down for the whole world. You're bringing it down for your house and for yourself and your family and everything, but you're bringing it down the whole world. And you go like this, right? And at that moment in Shabbat. So in the zchut of all the women who are lighting Shabbat and who are making Shabbat, and it's right now Friday, so the great Shabbat comes in also, right? And we don't have to go through all the stuff that's supposed to happen because we can bypass that if we bring it in, if we become instrumental in bringing down this stuff. So in a sense, it's a happy shiur that we did today. Got a little bit down in the end because of the details, but think about how we have this privilege that right down here in the feet of history, that we can bring down this highest light from Moshe, from Abraham, from Sarah, from Adam Rishon, right? And it can even be in us, and we can do great things. And we need to do great things. We're being called upon to do great things. So please Hashem, help us to do great things.
Thank you.
Okay.